All right. So, hi, Kimberly. How are you doing? This is week 2, and this is our day 1 um, recorded session. This week, we're going to be working on advertising mediums. We're going to compare the difference between traditional advertising and non-traditional, and traditional being print, outdoor, TV and radio, as opposed to online social media and electronic publications. Recently worked on a project, and I'm going to be using that project. I'm going to be showing that project through the course of this. Maybe tomorrow night I will bring that project out and show you where I've incorporated that. I actually showed a little bit of that project. It's my master's thesis for visual communications, master's degree in visual communications. And actually, tonight, I'm going to be letting you take a look at, that's the second thing that we're going to be talking about, is our assignment, which is e-publications. And what you're going to do is you're going to begin the process of preparing or designing your e-publication for your campaign, which in certain ways is very similar to the thesis paper that I'm doing for my course. Mine is basically a thesis on a project for a real client. And you're going to see some of the things that I did in preparation of actually producing this project for this client. My client who's a friend of mine, actually. I mean, he's somebody that has grown to be more than a client. He's somebody that's a client friend. So actually, what I did was I asked him if we would mind very much if we did this together, and he had no problem whatsoever doing it. So he's been incredibly cooperative, doing some of the things that I already knew about him. We didn't have to do, but just because I wanted to get it all down on paper. And as a matter of fact, in a little bit, I'm going to show you a little piece of that, which I think you'll find interesting, because not only does it show you how you can approach getting information out of a client, but you can see how I actually approached getting information out of a real client. So that I'm going to show you in a minute. But we're going to be working on this e-publication this week, and you're going to be beginning that process. Then finally, in the assessment, what you're going to do is you're going to include or create an additional advertising piece. So the important thing for us to talk about when it comes to advertising mediums is the difference between traditional and non-traditional or online advertising. There's a tremendous, well, you know what? I could get into this. I think I'm just going to wait, and we'll get to that when we get to it, which will be shortly. But what I want to do is I want to point out two things here. The design document questionnaire is what I'm going to show you in a moment. And then this is just a basic hello. This is week 2. You'll read that or not if you want. This is about our teaching assistant, okay, who's Wanda Bryant. You may or may not know her from Blackboard, but she's very capable and has been joined with me many times teaching together, and she's a very good friend. And of course, week 2 reference help. This is something that I am going to be working on tonight. I am actually going to work on this. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to go in and do a little bit of research for you so that you wouldn't actually have to look some of this stuff up. This stuff is right there in a document for you. I'm going to go over it tonight in class, but I've also supplied you with this document that you can download, and it has live links. Since it's a Word document, it has live links. You could actually open up those links and go right in and do your research and do your writing and do your citations if you choose to do that, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shut down my video. And what I want to do for a brief moment is I just want to go over the design document questionnaire. Now, what exactly is a design document questionnaire? A design document questionnaire, and you'll see it in a second when I open it, it's a series of questions that have little to do directly with a project, but more they're probative questions that you give to a particular person to get some feedback from them, to get them used to the idea of you're going to be contacting them and asking them questions, but also to get sort of an idea about what they like and what they don't like. So I'm going to open this up. Let me download it first, and let's open it up. And here is my design document questionnaire for Advanced Dentistry of New Providence, Dr. John Carino. All right, so obviously I collect information about him, personal information, his email and whatnot. The bottom line, though, is I have a series of, I think they're 20, let's see, we're at 21 questions. I have 21 questions. Now, basically, I am going to read some of these because I want you to understand where I'm coming from. Again, this is something that I would have done initially when I started working with John, the very first thing. However, the reason it didn't happen is because I had a very special relationship with John that evolved a different way. So I never really got to do this. However, when I got into my master's degree program and I was actually demonstrating for my master's instructor what I would do as steps in the process of getting information, gathering information about a project, I decided that I would give this to John and have John fill this out. John did a beautiful job with this, by the way, and it gives me great information. I wanted you to see how I did it, what I asked for, and what he gave in responses, because this is something that I recommend that you consider for your future. If you're working with a new client, before you give anything, create one of these and ask questions similar to the kind of questions you'll see here. Like I said, just so that you know, I've actually got that in the announcement for you. Okay, so you can download this and look at it. But I just want to go over this with you a little bit. Okay, so describe your company and the industry you are involved in. How does your company differ from others in the industry? What are your major concerns in your business industry? I own and operate a prosthodontist specialty dental practice in northern New Jersey. This is my 30th year as a wet finger prosthodontist. What a wet finger prosthodontist means, he's a practicing prosthodontist. That's actually what he does. He's a prosthetic dental surgeon is essentially what it is. And there are people that teach, there are people that do many other things, but he is actually a wet finger or a practicing prosthodontist. My partner and I differentiate ourselves from other prosthodontists in the state by being passionate and committed to our patients by keeping current on what we have available to offer them, staying ahead of the curve with the latest and greatest materials that are available, by basing our restorative decisions on what works in our hands as well as what is corroborated in the current literature as is paramount with what we deliver to our patients on a daily basis. So already you can see by what he's writing here, he's giving me information. I'm collecting information that I would not know and I would have to try to figure out, but I'm getting it from him firsthand because I'm specifically coming in and asking him, and he's actually taking the time to sit down and write this stuff for me. So this is one of the reasons why this is a very smart, and this is not something that was originally my idea. It's a brilliant idea, but it is not my original idea. I got it from somebody else, and I've been using it ever since. And what I'll do is I'll go in and I'll vary the questions or I'll modify the questions slightly if I have to. But let me continue. We have a fee-for-service boutique practices where what you see is what you get. I treat you. I don't pass you off to an underling to complete treatment. This is another very important point. I actually am now going to Dr. Carino, and the only thing that I don't get done by the doctor himself are teeth cleaning. He has somebody who is a specialist in teeth cleaning. She does teeth cleaning for everybody. But if there's any work done, John's doing it. He doesn't have his assistant or his partner doing it. It's John who will do that. So I start, work through, and finish with each restorative need. What you're going to see in later weeks are some examples of some of the things that John does. And it's absolutely amazing what he does. And it's actually incredibly shocking. I mean, he's an orthopedic surgeon or a prosthodontist. He's a prosthetic surgeon. So this man is working on incredibly serious dental issues with people. And as I say, some of them are just enough to make your mind spin. Poor people, what they go through. I will show you some of this only because it'll give you an idea of what you might encounter when you're working with somebody. I mean, never in my life did I figure I'd be dealing with a prosthodontist at this level. But it's a challenge. A graphic designer challenges himself and challenges their abilities. That's what you should do. One of my major concerns is the commoditization of dentistry, just like what has happened with medicine. Every dentist isn't trained the same way, nor are they skilled in the same areas of expertise. In addition, when you graduate first in your class or last in your class, you are still called doctor. My partner and I differentiate ourselves by each taking a minimum of over 100 credit hours of continuing education a year. The New Jersey state requires 20 credit hours. In addition, we run study clubs. Now, study clubs, I come to find out, study clubs are what John also presents his cases to. There are study clubs all around the country, and John goes to many, many, many different study clubs presenting his surgical techniques and his findings and some of the different materials and prosthetic applications that he uses. So you'll see that come up too. As well as sit on advisory boards of other study clubs. Besides learning, we mentor other dentists by helping them treatment plan complicated cases and guide them through the correct treatment sequencing of events. He also lectures for Straumann implant systems and the international team of implantologists for ITI. There's more to add about that at a later time. All right, so that's question number one. What is the mission or purpose of your organization? Please state your mission statement if you have one. He has currently created a mission statement. So this was prior to him creating the mission statement. So we'll see what he says. The purpose has always been to provide the best services possible to our patients. Everyone doesn't fit in the same cookie cutter restorative program. Finances can and are issues to many of our patients these days. So we always try to offer good, better, best scenarios when presenting different options for our patients. Good is always a starting point that becomes the foundation to build on. In other words, patients may currently be able to afford good, but over the years, treatment can build on good and make it better and potentially best. This takes a certain skill level to be able to build on previous prosthetic restorations without having to go back to scratch for all the previous treatments already rendered to the patients. It is the reason we have patients for life. Who are your main competitors? So you can see these questions are pretty logically based, and some of them he's got long answers for, others are very short answers. Do they have similar projects? What do you like and dislike about their projects? What do their projects have that you do not want in yours? Our main competition would be other prosthodontists. Although in times of economic strife, general dentists start to do prosthodontic cases. That seems a little bit strange. I'm not sure how that works, but unfortunately, they soon realize they don't have the skill level to complete the case. There you go, right there. A 3-unit bridge that you accomplished in dental school doesn't equate to you knowing how to do a 6-unit bridge, let alone a full mouth rehabilitation. So this is the kind of things that he's doing. This is somebody who's not a beginner. This is somebody with a great deal of experience doing incredible things. Like I say, I'll have some pictures to show you later on that you'll probably find shocking. But it's the real world. And I mean, when you're a graphic designer, you get it's almost in a way wonderful because the stuff you get to learn. It's not all designing packaging for hot dogs. When you stop and think of graphic design. So question number 4, what are the short-term goals of the project? What are your main reasons for doing it? What do you see as the goal for the next year? My short-term goal is to the project is to win a seat at the table. Now, this is a very interesting thing. I would like the opportunity to be one of the lecturers for a new implant abutment company. And surprisingly enough, I can tell you right here, with my help, he actually achieved that. He actually became one of the lecturers for this new abutment company, and it's Roto Medical. And I'm very proud that I helped him get there. Of course, I mean, he was the one delivering the presentation. I just delivered a deck, a PowerPoint deck that was beautiful and supported his great presentation. I think I mentioned last week that I'm in the process now of finishing up a live recording of one of his presentations. I should have that within a week or so, and I will be showing that to you through the course of the next few weeks. So it would give him a cutting edge above all the other prosthodontists in the state and on the East Coast. The abutment isn't going to be released until March of 2018, which is true. He's working on this. They've given him the material. They're taking orders, but they've given him the material. And what John does is wherever he has the opportunity, he utilizes these abutments, and he'll create another series of video presentation or PowerPoint presentations first, where he's using these actual abutments. This in turn has given me the lecture material I need. See, here we go. By him having this, beforehand access, gives him the ability to generate lecture material, present wet finger approaches, and convey the good, bad, and ugly of any problems that he ran into and how he overcame the obstacle. It's fascinating stuff. And again, as I say, this is a brand new abutment. It's not even on the market yet. And he, by virtue of just going in and making this presentation, has basically become their pitch man, essentially. So besides winning a seat at the lecture table for small venues, my ultimate goal is to win the big prize of lecturing at the Academy di Ocio, I can't even say it, in Los Angeles next March. That would be in front of 3,000 attendees. Dream big or go home. Don't blame them. So and this is the next question, what are the project's long-term goals? What are your future need for the project 1 to 5 years from now? So his long-term goal has always been similar to how he's learned and experienced things throughout his life. Don't use knowledge as a bound leather book. Knowledge, learning, and understanding has to be a 3-ring notebook that you can add to or take away from. This is great advice, and it's something that I think it's even great advice for you. So when you're doing your e-publications, think about that. What am I doing now, and how can I utilize this in the future? What way can I design this so it's sort of like I can go in and modify it, I can add to it, I can remove from it. And my future needs for the project will be based on how often Roto Medical needs me to lecture. He's already done as many as 6 lectures for Roto Medical. I have worked on at least 3 modifications to existing PowerPoint presentations to facilitate Roto Medical presentations. So he has essentially one presentation. We've gone in and we've made major overhauls to it 3 times for his presentations. So we haven't, well, I guess we kind of did. One time we kind of did do almost from scratch. Some of the material came from another one, but it was almost from scratch. And then from there it went to two modifications. So how will you measure the success of your project? Short-term success will be fulfilled with gaining a lecture seat at the Roto Medical table. Well, he achieved that. So his short-term goal of gaining that lecture seat at the Roto Medical table has come to pass. So that worked. Long-term success will be traveling and lecturing on their dime throughout the continental United States and Europe. So far, he has had 6 presentations. Now, he hasn't gone out of the country yet, but he's got 6 presentations already under his belt. So what are your scheduling requirements? What are your reason for that schedule? I am required to present a 7-minute. Now, this goes back to the initial presentation which he has to make for this Rhodomedical. That's what we started this on. So he has to make a 7-minute lecture pertaining to a case study. This is sort of like a test lecture. Rhodomedical said, come in. We've got a bunch of people here that want to review you. It's a review board for Rhodomedical. And we're going to sit here. You're going to give us a 10-minute case study, and we're going to grade you on it. That's essentially what this was. I am required to present a 7-minute lecture pertaining to a case study I've accomplished to a group of peers in Dallas on March 30th. I am just adhering to the invitation I've received and their schedule, which again, he went in and he got a critique on this. And as a matter of fact, maybe next week, I'll show you that critique, what they said, because it's very interesting. And that critique has every bit as much to do with me and my work as it does with John. Don't forget, 2 things were happening here. John was making the ultimate presentation. He was standing there and he was doing the pointer job of talking and pointing. I helped him produce the deck, the actual PowerPoint deck. I did the design and production of the deck for him. So they were looking at 2 things, the quality of his presentation and the quality of his visuals. So they had something to say about both of us. So in the end, both of us got something that we could use to move ourselves forward. And we actually did that. And it was a great experience, and it really benefited us because now our promotions are gorgeous compared to what they were before we got this review. So what is your projected budget? Please list both the financial limits and the time commitments limit for your budget. I don't know what you got here. Let's see. I don't have a projected financial budget per se because I'm currently just relying on photographs of patients I already have on file. Yeah, what he's doing right now is he's utilizing materials that he has, which is what he has to do. I mean, obviously, these are case studies, and the case studies are photographs that he takes through the course of his treatment, which is the way he actually prepares himself and has something that he can use as a demonstration. So there really isn't any outlay of money on that. My time commitment does eat into his free time, so that's essentially why I have been assigned the role of his PowerPoint presenter or his PowerPoint production person, because he doesn't really have the time to sit and do all of that. I do it, and then I review it with him. So I am currently not taking any time off from my business. If speaking engagements do become available, I will have to take time away from my practice. I'm hoping the financial compensation will make up for the time I'm away. So I'm kind of getting from this that he doesn't really get paid for this. Now, with Rhodomedical, that might be different because he's actually selling a product for them, but I'm not exactly sure how that works yet. What is your budget for maintaining your project? Again, I have no financial or time budget for completing on this project. My goal is to win a lecture position with this company, which he did achieve. And we are currently working on the PowerPoint presentation. And then it took me several months of basically, constantly talking to him about it, but I finally convinced him to do recordings of his video, which is what we're working on right now. So this goes on and on. I don't want to spend the whole night going through this whole thing, but I'll read the rest of the things that I have here. What is your budget for maintaining the project? Number 10, what specific information do you want to be sure to include in your project? So he gives me some statement about that. Do you have any specific graphs you wish to include in your project? Please advise which of these graphics you would supply and which will need to be created. So he talks about that. Why will people view your project? What will they take from it? And again, you can go in and you can get this, and if you want to, you can read what he says. It's very interesting because he has something that is helpful for everything. Who is the intended audience? Who do you plan on using or seeing your project? What goal do you have for each of your intended audience? What are the most important functions you wish to provide for each type of viewer? What kind of customers do you cater to? Please describe each type of customer. What services can you not provide now that your project can assist you with? Where will your project come from? Who will be providing the basic text? What print material do you presently have? Number 18, how often do you see your creative project needing updating? Well, I just told you that in the past, I guess it was like 3 months, we rebuilt his basic presentation one time and then did 2 updates. And updates, the presentation usually is as many as 185 slides. So I have to actually do 185 separate PowerPoint slides. And they all have transitions, and they all have, not all of them, but some of them, a lot of them have special effects and animations in them. So there's a lot of work that goes into these. I'm going to show you the recorded video. Once I show you the recorded video, you're going to be able to see all of this, because the recorded video that we did of this presentation basically focuses on this presentation. So if this is an interesting question, if this project were a piece of magic where anything was possible, what would you like it to do? Let's see what he says. I would like my presentation to touch everyone in the audience in an emotional way. My presentation is not just about a patient I have been treating for the last 25 years. It's about someone's life, a life where the exterior of the man is being changed and ravaged by cancer, but his soul is pure of heart, and he takes what he is given and makes the best of it. I don't want the audience to view the presentation and feel despair. I'd rather let them hear his story as told by me and feel hope. Nice. Number 21, please rank the following in orders of importance to you from 1 to 10. And then, of course, here he's done it. You'll read it. In your own words, please tell me what parts of the presentation went well and what parts came up short. What can I do to make your presentation better for you? Okay, so here he's saying, I was evaluated by the owners and staff of Rhoda Medical and the DevWrite professionals. The criticisms were that the presentation had a great subject matter but was flat. What they're talking about was me, my PowerPoint. The PowerPoint was flat. That's what they're meaning here, okay? A simplistic presentation of a complicated case study. There were slides that were out of focus, and the format was PowerPoint 101. So basically, what I tried to do, because remember now, we're talking about very, well, go back up here, and you'll see what he's saying here is, where is it? Yeah, ravaged by cancer. I mean, when you're dealing with images that have to do with cancer and things like that, you don't want too many bells and whistles. However, they made it clear that we clearly were not using any at all, and they felt that we could. And you know, after this critique, we went and we produced a video that was much livelier, much more professional, because I suddenly no longer felt inhibited by the idea that we're showing these very dire presentations, and we could still make them beautiful and spectacular without making them trashy or carnival-like. The slides were out of focus. All right, so they wanted to see more transitions, animations, and color. So following the story would be easier and livelier. See, all these good points is what they said to him. And you'll notice they all kind of refer towards the deck, me. They suggested that the title slide have specific words in bold so that they stand out. They thought it should be highlighted to drive home a concept. They also wanted to see more depth of field on the slide. All of this can be achieved by working with effects, which I kept to a minimum. So now we went out and we found more effects and we brought this thing to life. The photographs that I use should be shadowed to create illusions that they are floating on the slide rather on the same level. So basically what they're saying, the overall slide was flat, and what they wanted was they wanted depth. They wanted to feel like there was a real environment within the slide itself. That's easily achievable when you're working with PowerPoint. And it was up to me as a designer to do that, and John to help me by basically critiquing that. This would give the illusion of foreground. With the use of shadow boxes, the text or bullet points will give the illusion of background. The goal was to make the slide look three-dimensional. So there's their critique. There are my 20 questions that I gave him. This is what we call a design document questionnaire. Now, again, you can come up with any kind of questions that you think make sense. You can use the questions that I have here. But this is something that you do one time, and you do it with the principals that you're working with. So let's say you get a company that you're working with, and you got 3 people that you're going to be working with. What I would do is I would give all 3 of them a copy of the design document questionnaire, and I would have them all fill it out. I would then begin looking for similarities and differences. I'd be looking for that. I would look to see what I could gain either way. So that's my design document questionnaire. One of the very first things that you do, you unfortunately are not really going to be able to do that in this, but I wanted you to see this because we are talking about the medium of advertising and creating a campaign. Design document questionnaire, in my opinion, is an integral part of a design campaign. The designer should have this and should be willing to give it to people, the principals. I'm not saying necessarily your creative director, but the people like the sales team and the owner of the company, the people that are high up there, as high as you can reach, and get their input on this kind of stuff, okay? So again, it's here, design document questionnaire, and as you can see, you can download the copy, all right? Let's go back to announcements. And before I actually get into week 2 links, I'm going to show you week 2 reference help. So once again, I've done a little research for you. The links attached will help you with your topics for the week. I will be going over it in a class this week. Hope you can join me live. There's your links. And what that is basically is this. And what this is basically, we're talking first about advertising and advertising mediums, okay? So advertising is various meanings would be billboards, magazines, newspapers, radio, television, and internet, by which promotional messages are communicated to the public using words, speech, and pictures. In the next 5 sections, there's an advertising site that I'm going to take you to in a second. It's going to present a multi-part examination of advertising. It'll discuss basic concepts, trends, and covering of advertising continues with a look at decisions that are needed to carry out a successful advertising campaign. So why do you need this? Well, basically what you're doing is you're putting together an advertising campaign. So to do this, I think makes a whole lot of sense for you. So I'm going to start off by looking at this. Then we're going to talk about digital marketing versus traditional marketing, because you need to make some choices about what you're going to do. And those choices should be based on a number of criteria. And one of the most important criteria is economy. And we'll talk about in this, and probably in this advertising site that we're going to go to in a minute, we're going to be talking about such things. So let me get us there. I'm going to control-click that to bring it up. And here we go. This is the advertising. This is knowthis.com. And all right, so the next 5 sections, the principles of marketing tutorials, we begin an in-depth look at each promotional mix item. In this tutorial, we present the first of 2-part examination of advertising with a discussion of basic concepts and trends. Our coverage of advertising continues in the next tutorial, managing the advertising campaign. So you see, what I liked about this site, I went in and I looked for sites. What I liked about this site, my feeling is it was hitting all the correct buttons for you. You are going to be doing these things. And here they have all of that being covered. So you could actually go in here, and if you read through this, won't take that long, you'll get everything that you need, okay? So it's going to cover several fundamental issues in advertising, including examination of what advertising is and why it's important to the marketing organization. Managing the advertising effort by comparing in-house management to that offered by advertising professionals such as advertising agencies. So you're talking about in-house advertising, which is very common, as opposed to external advertising sources or agencies. Finally, the tutorial identifies different types of advertising and addresses trends facing the advertising industry. So here is a very important part for you, because they're going to be talking about types of advertising, and they're going to give you some trends and how they react within the advertising industry. So what is advertising? I'm not going to go through this whole, well, it's not that bad. Advertising is a non-personal form of promotion that is delivered through selected media outlets, under most circumstances, require the marketer to pay for message placement. Advertising has been viewed as a method of mass communication in that a single message can reach a large number of people. But this mass promotional approach presents problems, since many exposed to an advertising message may not be within the marketer's target market. Now, what I want to say about this right here and right now is your major problem, and this is something that you should remember when you get into talking about the pros and cons of things. Mass promotional approaches presents problems. They may not be exposed to the advertising message, may not be within the marketer's target market. Basically, if you are doing print-related advertising, mailers, flyers, brochures, things like this, you either are going to buy a list somewhere, or you're going to have to find some way to acquire a list. I mean, you can't survive and create new avenues of customers by just going after your same marketing, the people that you've been marketing to all along. Very expensive. The cost of these advertising materials are very expensive. Add to that the amount of time it takes for people to actually process and mail this out and get sent to people and purchase the actual bulk mailing price that you need to pay in order to get this mailing sent out. And then think about the number of people that might receive this and simply throw it away. This is one of the major problems that you have and have always had with mass marketing of traditional forms of advertising, such as, printed material. The new advertising technologies and the emergence of new media outlets offer more options for targeted advertising. The costs are far less. What you do have is you do have a cost for the design and production of whatever type of advertisement that you might be creating. And by the way, this is an advertisement right here. This is an advertisement right there. Okay. And somebody has to design this. Somebody has to put together an idea that will, make sense to somebody. And you have to place it, and you probably have to pay a certain amount of money to place this. But I got to tell you something, that is peanuts compared to traditional marketing. And the only reason I'm using these two examples here is because I happen to be sitting here in those two examples. Here's another one, Keurig. See how Keurig has got a little ad in here? Okay. This costs them very little money, and all sorts of people come in here and look at this. And I got to tell you, that Keurig ad is probably going to show up all over the place. They probably have this thing all over the place because they're saving so much money on actual production costs, or the production offsets are greater when you're dealing with print stuff, as with this, and you're still getting to a lot of people. So this is something that you need to think about when you actually go into building your advertising campaign. Advertising also has a history of being considered a one-way form of marketing communication, where the message receiver, i.e. target market, is not in a position to immediately respond to the message to seek more information. Well, there are ways that you can offset that. There are ways that you can, now, especially with the internet, you could have them contact you. There could be emails, or there could be a website that's associated with your messages. Back in the old day, it used to be a phone number. There was a phone number you could reach them at. But it makes a good point. The point is that if the target audience isn't immediately necessary to respond, they might want to find out something new. What happens today is you have the internet, and these people can go online, go to the site, and check out this information. Back in the 1980s, when I was working in an advertising agency and graphic companies, none of that existed. And there would be all these mailings being done, and they were lucky if they got a 1 to 2 to 3% return on what they were sending out. So really, you have to look at these things and think about these things when you think about what you're going to use. For example, in the next few years, technology will be readily available to enable a television viewer to click a button to request more details on a product seen in their favorite TV program. That would be very cool. But of course, remember now, the cost of on-air space is tremendous as opposed to internet. So it still may not be practical. In fact, it is expected that over the next 10 to 20 years, advertising will move away from one-way communication model and become one that is highly interactive. So really, that is clearly happening to this very day. I mean, here I can come over and I can click this, and this is going to send me right to where they want me to be. Or over here, I can come over here and I can click on that. Or if I go up to Kerrig, I can click on that, and it can send me off somewhere. If you saw this advertisement in a magazine, can you click and go anywhere? Absolutely not. The only thing that they can give you in the magazine is some way to contact them. That's all that they can do. They can either make it purely an advertisement talking about the virtue of their product, or they can give you some methodology where you can use to get in touch with them. Whereas here, I click this, and I'm not going to bother doing it because I think you got the idea. It will take you somewhere exactly where you need to be. Okay? So let's see what's next. Did I read all this? Let's see. Customers not moving first products happen. You can read the rest of this. I think you get the idea. The importance of advertising. All right, now this is kind of a toss out for you. And again, look, here's another Kerrig ad. So again, we've now seen two different ads by Kerrig. So apparently, if you stop and think about it, the cost of space online has to be small enough that now we've got a number of different ads that, and I'm sure there are more than just two. There's probably 4 or 5 different sized ads for Kerrig that you would find on air, online, I mean. So spending on advertising is huge. One often quoted statistic by market research firm Zenith Optimedia estimates that worldwide spending on advertising exceeds $400 billion. This level of spending supports thousands of companies and millions of jobs. In fact, in many countries, most media outlets such as television, radio, and newspaper would not be in the business without a revenue generated through the sale of advertising. I'm sure you've heard of this. Almost every single radio and television show is on air for 2 reasons: viewership and the generated sales through advertising. I'm sure you've heard of this. While worldwide advertising is an important contributor to economic growth, individual marketing organizations differ in the roles advertising plays. For some organizations, little advertising may be done. Instead, promotional money is spent on other types of promotions, such as the personal selling through a sales team. For some smaller companies, advertisement may consist of occasional advertisement of very small scale, such as placing small ads in a classified section of a local newspaper. All right, so let's talk about that for a second. If you're going to go through the process of advertising through a sales team, then you have to have several things. You have to have either an e-publication that the salesperson can leave behind in some manner or get to the people in some manner, or they have to have sales material, printed sales material. There goes your cost back up, because the cost of printed material is far greater than the cost of an e-publication That's one thing. And then here, for smaller companies, advertising may cost an occasional advertisement on a very small scale, such as placing an ad in the classified section of a local newspaper. Well, I would think for better money, what you would be doing would be placing small space ads, okay, the likes of which we're looking at here and here online, as opposed to advertising in a local section, a section of a local newspaper. To be honest with you, I think a lot of that is becoming quickly passé. Okay, with all the people online, either on iPads or on laptops or desktops. I mean, it seems to me that if you're going to be thinking about placing small ads anywhere, shouldn't necessarily be in a local newspaper. It should be online. Again, though, it has to be your decision. I'm giving you my feeling about this. And we'll see if we don't read more about this as we go along. But most organizations, large and small, that rely on marketing to create customer interests are engaged in consistent use of advertising to help meet marketing objectives. This includes regularly developing advertising campaigns, which is one thing that you're basically doing now, which involve a series of decisions for planning, creating, delivering, and evaluating an advertising effort. We will cover advertising campaigns in greater detail in the next tutorial. This is why I wanted this site to be given to you, because I think these little bits of information you're going to find very helpful in organizing your own brain and get yourself ready or preparing yourself for your advertising effort. These are things that you should know, and it's all right here. That's why this is a good site. All right, so I got some kind of error up there. It's probably some kind of a bad script thing. Managing advertising decisions, though. Delivering an effective marketing message to advertising requires many different decisions as the marketer develops their advertising campaign. Okay, so here's where you want to really start paying attention. For small campaigns that involve little creative effort, one or a few people may handle the bulk of the work. Well, that's you. That's exactly what you're doing. In fact, the internet has made do-it-yourself advertising an easy-to-manage process and has especially empowered small businesses to manage their advertising decisions. Hello? Look at that right there. That's important. Think about it. You have to come up with a strategy. What should your strategy be? I would argue that it's probably a good idea to very strongly consider an online advertising campaign. Now, should you not include some? I would say you might want to include a billboard, or maybe even more effectively some kind of postering for either the sides of bus stops, or maybe even better, trains, subways, something like that. That's what I would be thinking about if I were you. And I would do that because I think probably you're going to find that you'll get your best payoff out of that. You have on subways large number of people and of all different kinds. On the internet, you have large number of people of all different kinds. And I think you're going to find that the actual production costs for things like online advertisements are relatively inexpensive. And you could do it all yourself, as this says here. And you're going to find that by virtue of what you'd have to pay to produce a complex trifold brochure or some sort of a thing, a package of product sheets or something like that, some kind of print project, I think you're going to find that the costs for online ads are going to be a lot cheaper. Plus, magazine ads, the cost of the magazine ad itself is expensive. You have to design it, and you have to have film done, and then you have to have space. And the space in a magazine can be incredibly expensive. Small campaigns could find themselves left out of that. So as a small campaign, you might want to think about doing online. I'm giving you the best of my thinking on this. For larger campaigns, and this is not you, but just listen to what they say. For larger campaigns, the skills needed to make a sound advertising decisions can be quite varied and may not be easily handled by a single person. While larger companies manage some advertising activities within the company, they are more likely to rely on the assistance of advertising professionals, such as those found in advertising agencies, that will help bring their advertising campaign to market. Well, that's why they're a larger company, because if you're going to hire an advertising agency, then what you're going to be doing is you're going to be paying them for all of this. You got a creative director in an advertising agency. You've got designers, art director, designer, and you'll have like production people all getting paid to work on your project. Whereas if you're a small company, okay, you may have a marketing manager, and you yourself might be the art director, designer, and production person, saving the company a tremendous amount of money. Okay, and if you do the wise thing with what you do, what you produce for your marketing messages, you will probably do just as well as what a major advertising agency can do. The motivations are different. The advertising agency wants to succeed, yes, but they want to maximize the amount of money that they earn because they're a private entity. So they got to consider that, whereas you don't have to consider that quite as much. You're an in-house person. What you have to concern yourself with is, what is the best way I can get my message out? Advertising agency functions. I'm not going to go through all of this, but I think professionals in advertising agencies and other advertising organizations offer a number of functions. I'm just going to give you the titles. You can read through this because this is something that's very elaborate, and I don't want to go into the whole thing on it. So there's account management. Okay, and account management basically is the person who either goes out and gets the account, brings the account in, and then is the person that interfaces with the account. So the person goes out, wins the account, comes back in, the creative team, researchers, media planners, all the internal people produce a plan similar to what you're going to do. The account manager is the one that goes back and makes the final presentation of the advertising or marketing plan. And once it's accepted, that person brings back the contract or whatever document they pass to sign this up. He comes back in, and the creative team begins the process of implementation of the plan. So what you're doing right now is you're preparing a plan. Creative team usually is a creative director with a lower level of an art director, and then a designer or two, and then a production person or two. That's more or less how they work. Creative director is primarily responsible for working at the highest level with the account management and with the writers and other people who are maybe even lawyers, depending upon the circumstance. And he collects all the raw data, the information that has to be in the ad. Then he gives it to the art director, who then goes in and works with, more than likely, if it's a big company, they'll have a branding manual, a branding strategy. The creative director will implement the branding strategy and build his creative around that branding strategy. The creative or the art director will then hand the work down to a designer who will further refine the piece. And once the piece is refined, it goes back to the art director, who okays it, sends it up to creative director, okays it, and in many cases, the account manager will actually bring the work back to the account and verify that it's targeted the way they want it targeted. Then it will come back, and the people who are primarily the production people will actually make sure that the production is the correct, is produced in the correct way. All right? And again, you can read all this. See what else we got here. Types of advertising. Okay, so now we're starting to get into it a little bit. So if you ask most people what is meant by type of advertising, invariably they will respond by defining it in terms of how it is delivered. So in other words, they'll think, well, advertising is television, it's an ad, it's a radio, etc. Marketing type of advertising refers to the primary focus of the message. So the difference is that advertising is a little bit more oriented towards means, whereas the marketing refers towards focus, a message being sent, and falls into one of the following categories. So there's product-oriented advertising, image advertising, advocacy advertising, public service advertising. My guess is, and I don't have the, I don't think I have it in front of me right now, but last week it gave you a list of clients. My guess would be that out of all of the four that we have there, you will probably be considering product-oriented advertising and image advertising. I think those two. Advocacy advertising, I'm not sure. It's up to you, but I think probably public service. No, I don't think public service so much. Product-oriented image advertising is probably what you're going to be working with. Types of advertising. So now this gives you an idea of what product-oriented advertising is. So most advertising spending is directed towards the promotion of specific goods. So you have to look at the pieces that you are not the pieces, but the companies that you are going to represent in your campaign. So what are they? Who are they? What are they doing? Are they a service? Is it an idea? What are they collectively labeled as an or organization's product? In most cases, the goal of product advertising is to clearly promote a specific product to a targeted audience. I think you're going to find that this is what you're going to be doing. That's why I'm going to focus on this one and the next one, and the other ones I'll leave for you to look at, and you can make the ultimate decisions. Marketers can accomplish this in several ways, from a low-key approach that simply provides basic information about a product, that's information advertising, to blatant appeals that try to convince customers to purchase a product, persuasive advertising that may include direct comparisons between the marketer's product and its competitor's offering, comparative advertising. My guess is that you would probably be, I would think, not informative advertising and persuasive advertising. I think that is somewhere in between there. In other words, I don't think that you want to be totally blatant. It's up to you. At the same time, I don't think you want to be too low key. I don't think you want that either. So you'll have to look at it and decide where in that scope or that range, because it's informative to persuasive to comparative. Where do you want to fall? Do you want to compare your customer to somebody else? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Totally up to you. These are decisions that you should be making. Nice thing about it is this site gives you all this that you can think about, so you can actually go in and think about this stuff and write this into your campaign. However, sometimes marketers intentionally produce product advertising where the target audience cannot readily see a connection to a specific product. Marketers of new products may follow this teaser approach in advance of a new product introduction to prepare the market for the product. So essentially what they're doing is they're suggesting very loosely about this new product, building up some interest, essentially. For instance, 1 week before the launch of a new product, a marketer may air a television advertisement proclaiming, after next week, the world may never be the same, but do so without a mention of a product or even a company behind the ad. The goal is to create curiosity in the market and interest when the product is launched. My guess is something like that probably wouldn't work unless you're working in a larger organization where you have money to do such things. I think on your level, this is probably not the most practical thing. However, if you want to suggest something like that, I'm open to consider it. Again, I'm giving you this site. You can come in here and you can look this over and think about it as much as you need to come up with your concept. That's why I'm giving it to you, because it gives you all that you need to know. Types of advertising, image. So let's image advertising. Image advertising is undertaken primarily to enhance an organization's perceived importance to a target market. Image advertising does not focus on specific products as much as it presents what an organization has to offer. This might be something that you are doing with yours, okay? I think there's one, well, you decide, but I think there's one in there definitely that you might consider this at. In this type of ad, the products are mentioned as if within the context of what we do, rather than a message touting the benefits of a specific product. So you're talking more general about, like if you're on a vacation type of a thing. You don't want to specifically talk about one thing you do on the vacation. You want to include it as part of an overall scheme. Image advertising is often used in situations where an organization needs to educate the targeted audience on some issue. For instance, image advertising may be used in a situation where a merger has occurred between two companies and the newly formed company has taken on a new name. Or if a company has received recent negative publicity and the company wants to let you, the marketer, know that they're about much more than this one issue. These are not things I think you have to worry about so much, but you should know that they exist. And I think basically what you're going to do is, deal with the first part of it, what we do, rather than the message touting the benefit of a specific product, and then undertaken primarily to enhance an organization's perceived importance to a target market. Target market being very important. You have to have somebody in mind who is going to be who in your mind, who do you envision in your mind as the person interested? That's a target market. What can you say and do based on that concept or that notion of what that target market is? What can you say or do to make that person respond? That's what you're doing. Types of advertising, advocacy. I think I'm going to pass on this because I don't really think it applies. You can read this though because you got the link. And advertising, public service. Again, I think I'm going to pass on this because it's something you can read. And I don't actually think it is your best shot with this. All right, so here we go. This is an area that I wanted to cover with you. Advertising trends, digital convergence. Like most areas of marketing, advertising is changing rapidly. Some argue that change has affected advertising more than any other marketing function. For instance, while many different media outlets are available for communicating with customers, the ability to distinguish between outlets is becoming more difficult due to the convergence of different media types. In advertising convergence, and more appropriately, digital convergence refers to a growing trend for using computer technology to deliver programming and information. This is, you're watching it happen right here. This thing here is a word stream. I think periodically this thing updates, and if you see something you like, you click it. Let's see here. In advertising convergence, and more appropriately, digital convergence refers to a growing trend for using computer technology to deliver media programming and information. Convergence allows one media outlet to take advantage of features and benefits offered through other media outlets. For instance, in many areas around the world, television program is now delivered digitally via cable, television, or satellite hookup. This delivery method uses the same principles of information delivered that is used to allow someone to connect to the internet. The convergence of television and internet opens many potential opportunities for marketers to target customers in ways not available to traditional television advertising. Well, for one thing, you have television, traditional television advertising, which has always been incredibly expensive. But now you have other stations, secondary stations, where you can run ads, and they would be a lot cheaper. They would be, and people would still be watching. For example, technology may allow ads delivered to one household to be different than ads delivered to a neighbor's television, even though both households are watching the same program. They can do this because they're connected to your internet, and they can determine from your internet what kind of interests you have, and they could target your particular interests by that understanding of your information. Whenever you buy things online, I mean, they are tracking what you're doing. Believe me, they do. It may not like the sound of it, but that's what's going on. And they use that information to gain insight into what they might present on TV for you so that you would be looking at something that would make sense to you. Next door neighbor, get something slightly different. Convergence is not limited to just television. Many media outlets are experiencing convergence, as can be seen with print publications that now have a strong web presence. There aren't too many, at this point, there aren't too many traditional media outlets that do not have a strong web presence. As a matter of fact, print production or print publication is slowly but steadily dying. Now, is it dead? No. And is there a lifespan for it? Yes, it is not gone, and it will not be gone, but it is in a certain way a shadow of its former self. Most people are very cued into the web, and you know they have web on your telephones right now. You know, you can have tablets, and most people have a tablet. Unfortunately, right now I don't have a tablet, but most people do. And you can get all sorts of advertising and all sorts of media on a tablet alone. Laptops, computers, all of that. The future holds even more convergence opportunities. These include outdoor billboards that alter displays as cars containing geographic position systems and other recognizable factors, e.g. GPS tied to satellite radios pass by, or direct mail postcards that carry a different message based on data that matches a household address with television viewing habits. Here you go. This is where it gets big brothery, okay? So what they're saying here is you can have billboards that have sensors that can connect to your car, or actually can access, or that's not really the right word. They can feed from your car your geographic positioning systems or other recognizable factors, and it would cause them to alter the display, change the display, make the display slightly different from car to car. Now, also this postcard thing. When I was talking to you before, postcards are very expensive. Direct mail is very expensive. But if these people, if they're able to get messages from data that matches household addresses with television viewing habits, then these direct mail companies can better target different people or create groups of targets that people could then buy, and the direct mail will be targeted better. So what happens is the people who are going to produce the direct mail don't necessarily acquire this data. They go to a data company that acquires this information, and they put together a direct mail address list that will work for a particular product. And what it will do is it will hopefully improve the overall performance of the piece that you're creating, the direct mail piece. Whereas in the past, back in the 1980s, I mean, they were using a similar manner. What they were doing is they were buying lists from multiple sources and then compiling lists from multiple sources. But now they can do this much more rapidly by grabbing data from people's addresses and viewing habits, which they can get off of your computer. Audience tracking. The movement to digital convergence provides marketers with, and watch here again, we got more advertising here. There's a lot of this going on. The movement to digital convergence provides marketers with basic resources needed to monitor users' activity, namely digital data. Any media outlet that relies on computer technology to manage the flow of information does so using electronic signals that eventually form computer data. In simple form, electronic data is represented by either an on or an off electrical signal. In computer language, this is further represented by numbers 0 and 1. Consequently, it's known as digital information. All digital information can be stored and later evaluated. For media outlets delivering information in digital form, the potential exists for greater tracking and matching with information about the person receiving the digital data. Tracking does not stop with what is delivered. It also works with information being sent from the customer. For instance, as noted earlier, by clicking on the television screen, viewers are able to instantly receive information about products they saw while watching a television show. This activity can be tracked when used in future marketing efforts. While media convergence offers marketers more options for trafficking response to advertisements, such activity also raises ethical and legal concern. Many consumers are not pleased to learn their activities are being monitored when they engage a media outlet. Yet, consider the following examples of how marketers are tracking users. So really, people don't like this, but in a certain way, it's unavoidable. I mean, there's so many things that you can do with internet cable. And I mean, you basically have internet cable, you have TV coming in that way, you have your telephone coming in that way, you have your computer coming in that way. I mean, you know, television, as we noticed, the advent of digitally delivered television allows cable television and satellite providers to track user activity through a set top boxes connected to a subscriber television. Future innovation will make the user television experience even more interactive and consequently open to even more tracking. So as you encounter things on the internet, you know, all of this can be fed back to the source, and they can collect the information from you. And they actually, what they do is since you are purchasing the cable from them, they have your address because they have to send you a bill. They have your name. So ultimately, they can generate a list of the things that you are interested in, which then can be sold. Television recording. The days of television videotape recording are quickly going. What was that? quickly coming to an end. Replaced by recording using computer technology, a digital video recorder, DVR, such as TiVo, can track users' recording habits and based on a viewer's past activity, make suggestions for programs they may want to record. Additionally, advertising services can program a DVR to insert special advertisements within a program targeted for a particular viewer. So there again, what they would have is they would have a bank of advertisements, and this is where you can play into this. You know, you could create advertisements with the idea of an insertion process. And as a matter of fact, I think if you watch these advertisements as we go through here, periodically they update and you get a different view. What this is saying essentially is they have the potential to actually track the people that they are sending these advertisements into and targeting people who might have an interest in them, which is beneficial. You pay for that, but you may get a better readout for that. Internet spyware, downloading entertainment from the internet, such as games, video, and software, may contain a hidden surprise, spyware. There's so many things that contain spyware today. You got to constantly be vigilant. Spyware is a special program that runs in the background of a user's computer and regularly informs information over the internet to the spyware company. In some cases, spyware keeps track of websites the user has visited. The information is then used to gain an understanding of the user's interest, which then results in delivery of special ads when the user clicks a certain file. Spyware is the one thing that I personally don't find I'm not too enthusiastic about it because I think it is intrusive. These other things are intrusive, but I don't think they're as potentially dangerous as the internet spyware. But I'm no expert on this. I'm just giving you my feedback on it. Let's see what we got next here. Okay, ad skipping and blocking. This is something that you should know about because this is what occurs. As noted above, television recording devices offer marketers tremendous insight into viewers' habits and behavior. Yet from the consumer side, the DVR is changing how people view television programs by allowing them to watch programming at a time that is most convenient for them. Viewer convenience is not the only advantage of the DVR. The other main reason consumers are attracted to the DVR is their ability to quickly skip over commercials. Now stop for a minute and think about this. You're spending megabucks on advertising commercials. And you have people, many of them, DVRing their programming, skipping your commercials. Is it doing you any good? So the question is that the most logical way to go with your advertising? My feeling, no. My feeling is you probably are going to be doing better off to be doing some sort of an internet advertising and maybe some sort of a advertising that is either a billboard or some sort of a poster for a train or a subway. But hey, you know, you have to decide this. The other main reasons, okay, advertisers who feel frustrated with television ad skipping may opt to invest their promotional funds in other media where consumers are more likely to be exposed to the advertisement. See, that's what I'm saying in a sense. I mean, there's no way that if you get on a subway, the only thing that you can do is you can ignore the ads that are on the subway. I mean, you can open up a book or you can look at your phone or you can look at your, your tablet, whatever. But if your advertising is beautiful enough, eye-catching enough, compelling, people will see it. They will look at it. So really, it comes down to your creative thought and your correct usage of your advertising media. In this particular case, I see what they're saying here, and I think this is something very strongly to consider. Changing media choices. So here we got some choices for you. There is a major cultural shift occurring in how people use media for entertainment, news, and information. Many traditional media outlets, such as newspapers and major commercial television networks, are seeing their customer base eroded by the emergence of new media outlets. The internet has become a major driver in this change. In particular, the number of important applications tied to the internet are creating new media outlets and drawing the attention of many, mostly younger consumers. Examples include social media. There's another thing that you should think about. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you in my my thesis paper for John Carino how we discuss social media for the doctor. Possibly the most significant example of how media usage is changing can be seen with the rapid expansion of social media. Social networking websites such as Facebook, Twitter, not only offer a venue for social exchange, but these are also developing into locations where news and information is obtained. User-generated video sites. I got one, YouTube, and it's YouTube Bill Sweeney. And I put all my videos there. You go up and see my recorded sessions there. In large part due to the popularity of YouTube, what now qualifies them as a video media has changed. One of the things that I suggested for Dr. John is once we get his video done, he'd take his video and he would create a video page on his website. But then I also told him that he should be creating a YouTube site. And there's another one, I can't think of the name of it right now. There's another pretty popular video site. If I can think of it, maybe I'll bring it out, but I can't think of it right now. Now anyone can produce videos and post for the world to see. So you might want to consider possibly posting a video. The result in this advertising choice for video production is long limited television programs, as marketers can present their ads as part of an online video. You could do this in a small way by creating animated GIFs. Like go in and do something that's animated if you know how to do that. You could do that in Adobe Illustrator. Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop, I believe. No, wait a minute. Now that I think about it, maybe not Illustrator. I'm sure Photoshop, you can create animated GIFs in Photoshop. Illustrator, I have to look up and see. I don't remember because I've never really used it to do that. But I know because I've done them in Photoshop. You can create animation in Photoshop. And you might want to consider doing that, animated GIFs, as one of your advertising mediums for the internet. Small screen video. While accessing video content over the internet through computers linked to high-speed data networks is common, the streaming of video over wireless networks to small handheld devices such as smartphone is still in its infancy. Many television networks are now experimenting with making its programming available in formats suitable for widescreen or small screen viewing. This includes offering marketers advertising opportunities. With the number of small screen devices continue to grow rapid, it is likely this format of advertising is poised for tremendous growth over a short time frame. Frankly, I'm not buying it. I don't really think that people are going to like having their screen co-opted for advertisements popping up on them. So I would be very, very leery of this particular one. If you're thinking about doing advertisements for the web, think about desktops, laptops, and tablets, and let it end there. I would not go any further with it. So we've got mobile device apps, smartphones, and tablet computer applications are proving the rich new ground for advertisers. I just said that. I think tablet computers are a good idea. Rss Feeds and internet information distribution technologies popular with news websites. With RSS feeds, new information posted on our website can be delivered instantly to anyone signed up for delivery. The information sent to feed subscribers can include inserted ads. Boom, boom, there you go, right there. The information sent to feed subscribers can include inserted ads. So there you have another possibility to include ads. But this goes back down to what I was saying. Look, got an ad here. You got an ad here. You're going to create these ads. You're going to create different ads, and you're going to possibly try to imagine where you can access the internet or the target audience via the internet. Okay? Now, podcasting, let's see, I read that one, I think, right? Oh, no, there we go. In addition to offering RSS feeds, many new websites offer free downloadable audio and video files that are experienced on computers, smartphones, and iPod devices. While at one time this form of delivery was widely used, many users are now accessing the information directly from the website rather than downloading it, e.g., watch news programming on mobile devices. As this trend continues, the effectiveness of inserting ads in podcasts is likely to decline. Okay? Online gaming. While gaming systems have been around for some time, gaming accessible over information networks is still evolving. As internet and mobile networks connections increase in speed, gamers are expected to shift away from the games loaded on their local computers and instead access games online. This shift is opening new territory for advertisement by establishing marketers to insert special content, including product advertisement within gameplay. So if you can imagine what they're talking about here, if you ever watch a program like America's Got Talent, and you notice like in front of everybody in America's Got Talent, they have like a Pepsi cup. Well, what they're saying here is that, you know, online gaming, you could suddenly start seeing things like billboards when they're in their game environment. You could see billboards showing up for Coca-Cola, or somebody could be drinking out of a Coca-Cola mug. In other words, you'll begin to see brand included right within the games that you play. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if at some point they would be able to know a little bit about you in order to make sure that the products that you are seeing in there are products that you'd be interested in. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they could do something like that eventually as well. For marketers, these new technologies should be monitored closely as they become accepted alternatives to traditional media outlets. So you know what? I'm not going to finish this because I think the bottom line is you could look at this. What it says here to me is that one of the things I think you should really be thinking about very seriously is the use of media and what type of media you're going to use, which ones you're going to concentrate on. It would seem to me very likely that you would probably want to focus heavily on internet advertisements. So I would do research into internet advertising and what sizes of internet advertising. If I get a chance to tomorrow sometime, I'll look that up myself and I'll see if I can come up with some guidelines for you for this. And if I do, I'll put in an announcement and send you email notifying that I got it so you can look at it. But I would think that's probably a strong way to go. If I had my choice of what I would produce for some sort of a billboard or display kind of a deal, my guess would be, for my personal feeling, I would be going after buses and subways and trains. Trains probably not, because they actually do have posters in trains. I would say trains, trains, I don't think they have too many in buses anymore, but they do have them in trains. They do have them in subways, a lot in subways. So I would be, and billboards, I would not. I would probably go from, instead of the billboard, I would go for maybe like a subway or a train, or both. That's what I think. I'd be curious to hear from you about what you think. So maybe when you get into talking with me in your discussion this week, you could give me your opinion on this. So that basically gets us through this particular site. The link's there for you, and I think you should look at it. We still have some time left, so what I want to do is I want to open this one up here, and we'll talk about, actually, you know what? I think the debate continues as to whether digital marketing is overpowering and surpassing traditional marketing. Many think that, for the most part, digital marketing has taken over and traditional marketing barely exists. Recent occurrences such as the magazine giant Newsweek switching to totally digital publications caused ripples throughout the marketing arena. There you go. There's something that you really should think about. Newsweek is literally switching to digital publications, meaning that there's probably going to be in the near future no more actual print publication for Newsweek. It'll all be just online. Very important things for you to think about, because you will probably be getting on board with some of this as you become a graphic designer. So you should really understand e-publishing, which is what we're going to be doing this week. And I'll show you a couple of things that I did either before the end of the night. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, because probably tomorrow night I'll show you some interesting things about that and get you ready for when you make yours. But definitely think about this, because this is incredibly important. Over the last year or so, traditional marketing has fallen nearly 160%, while at the same time, frame expenses for digital marketing has increased 14%. So you're losing tremendous amount of traditional marketing. I mean, that means things like magazines. That means things like brochures. That means things like newspapers. That means things like product sheets, sell sheets, anything on paper, posters. All that stuff is falling by the wayside. So that's why I say, if you think about it, what would be the most logical thing for you to do? Depending upon the circumstance, my guess would be some sort of posters for Subway, because Subways, if you've ever been in Subways, and I used to go to New York regularly, and Subways are usually jammed packed full of people, and there's always posters in there. And if you can create nice posters, you can definitely get your product or your service or whatever in front of a tremendous amount of people that you can count on. Now, not every single one of them are going to be all that interested, but you'd be surprised at how many people at least notice that stuff. And then what I would do is I would think very heavily about producing stuff that might be available online. I'll take a look at this, and then we'll get to what are the different types of advertising media. Well, your television, radio, I guess it's the same thing. Let me see what this is first. Let me go and check it out. The debate continues as to whether digital marketing is overpowering and surpassing traditional marketing. Many think that, for the most part, digital marketing has taken over to traditional, making traditional marketing barely exist. Recent occurrences such as the magazine giant, okay, well, we read that. Finding traditional marketing, let's go down a little bit. There are many facets of traditional marketing. For example, might include tangible items such as business cards. Business card is something that I think you'll always find. I don't necessarily think that you are going to want to necessarily produce as one of your advertising mediums a business card. Print ads in newspapers or magazines, you can do that. You can produce a print ad for magazines or advertise newspapers, I'm sorry. But what you should do is you should look up ad sizes for magazines, ad sizes for newspapers. And I'm sure you could find standard sizes and produce a standard size advertisement for a magazine or newspaper. But keep in mind that if you produce this advertisement for a magazine or newspaper, you're going to pay for the design and production of it, the filming, the printing, and the insertion into a publication or to a number of publications. If you are going to produce a quarter-page advertisement in one publication, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars. If you create that same advertisement and place it in 6 publications or 6 issues of the same publication at the same location or even at different locations, you're going to save money, but you're going to have to pay for 6 insertions. So that you're talking a lot of money here. This is what I guess I'm trying to make you understand. You need to think about your customer and what your customer can support, okay? They also include posters, commercials on TV and on radio, billboards, and brochures. You have to consider whether any of this makes any sense to you. My guess would be posters, and perhaps posters that would be specifically for, again, a Subway. I think that something like that would make good sense, generally speaking. Traditional marketing is anything except digital means to brand your product or logo. Another overlooked means of traditional marketing is when people find a particular business through referral or network. Eventually, you could build rapport with them. Well, I don't know how you're going to do that visually, so I wouldn't consider that in this particular case. So, but let's talk a little bit about digital now. The world of digital marketing continues to evolve, and as long as technology continues to advance, digital marketing will as well. Examples of digital marketing include such things as website, social media, mentions, YouTube videos, banner ads. So you need to think about, are you going to include in your advertising campaign a website or a website redesign? You have to think about that. Are you going to say, well, my company does not have a website, so we're going to build a website. That's one of the things that I'm going to do. And you'll show me what you think the website might look like. You don't necessarily have to make the entire website, but you could make one page of the website. just as an example to show me a mock-up. You can show me some kind of an ad that you'd be placing in social media. So what you would do is go look up Yelp. Look up Yelp. Go to Yelp and look up Yelp and see what some of the advertisements look like on Yelp. And maybe you might consider producing something for Yelp, okay? Or I don't necessarily think you want to make a YouTube video unless you have the ability to go out and make an actual video. I'm doing that from my friend John, but I actually was originally going to do that myself, but as it came to pass, we came upon somebody who would work with us on this, who actually is a videographer and a photographer. So now he's doing it. But you can create banner ads. There's another thing that you can create banner ads. We've been looking at tons and tons and tons of banner ads. There's a banner ad right there. There's a banner ad. We talked about that. So these are things that you could also make, banner ads. I'm giving you some ideas to try to help you figure out where you want to go with this. Specifically, digital marketing is similar to traditional marketing, but use different devices. However, where are we at here? However, digital marketing is considered a form of inbound marketing, and its goal is for people to find you. Business put content or ads out for individuals to find. People may conduct an organic online search, a paid search, find your business on a social network, or by reading content that has been published online, such as a blog or an article. That's another thing you might want to do. You might want to see if you could create an article about a particular thing. And then what you would do is you would see if you could contact people that have blogs that would take your article and put your article within their blogs to go out to people who might be within your target audience group. There are a number of different ways you could handle it. I'm trying to give you as many as I can. The more they see you and your content, the more familiar they will become with your brand, and they will eventually develop a trust and rapport with you through this online presence, essentially becoming your new customer. All right, so traditional marketing's advantage and disadvantage. I'm curious to see what they say here because I've been talking about it. Let's see what I didn't get. Because of its longevity, people are accustomed to traditional marketing. But guess what? Magazines are closing, newspapers are failing, people are spending less and less money on things like postcard mailings, brochure mailings. You'll see less of them come in. Think about that as well. Finding ads in magazines and newspapers or reading billboards are still familiar activities. Billboards are, but magazines and newspapers, as I say, they're getting fewer and fewer. They're still out there, but they're fewer and fewer. They are highly targeted, though. So one of the things that you can say good about magazines especially is that the magazines are usually very topic-oriented. And if you find the right one and put them in the right one, you can do some real good for your company. That's an important thing for you to think about, depending upon which one you choose. Most of the time, traditional marketing is reaching only a local audience, even though it is not limited to one. One of the primary disadvantages of traditional marketing is that the results are not easily measured. The only way you can easily measure is if you have some sort of send-in thing, which people don't generally like to do. So that's a very good point. You can't always guarantee a particular result unless you have an offer that includes some sort of a special number and a code that people call in with. Then, of course, that's a slightly different thing, which you can consider doing. Let's see. Perhaps the biggest disadvantage today is that traditional market is static, which means there is no way to interact with the audience. Now, basically, that's it. I mean, they open up the magazine, they look at the postcard, and that's it. I mean, they're maybe if they want to push a button or something, it's not going to happen. It's more like you are throwing information in front of people and hoping they will decide to take action. Well, by saying that, I mean, you're doing the same thing with online advertisement. I mean, you're throwing information within the mix and you're hoping people will make a decision to take action. So, you know, I mean, that's not saying that that's the strongest point. Digital marketing's advantages and disadvantages. One benefit of using digital marketing is that the results are much easier to measure. Well, that's true, because basically they have links, I mean, that they can follow. There's ways that they can contact you for information, or to contact you to order, or go to your site. And, you know, if you're sent to a site from an ad, that can be measured. So every time somebody clicks on your ad and goes to your site, that can be measured. And in fact, if they are doing it correctly, they can even tell you who that person is and what their overall interests are. Remember what we said earlier. Another is that digital campaign can reach an infinite audience. It is also possible to tailor a digital campaign to reach a local audience, but it can also be used on the web and reach the entire globe when appropriate. So you can control the scope of your advertisement to a specific type of audience, or you can make it more general, depending upon what you think is the necessary requirement, and also what you can afford to do. Digital marketing is also very interactive means of reaching your audience, since it makes use of social outlets. There can be plenty of direct contact between the audience and business, which means that the business can get some very valuable consumer feedback. One of the disadvantages to using digital media marketing strategies is it can take some time to realize measurable successes. Okay, but I think that can be said about print advertising as well. I don't think that, you know, you can immediately, as a matter of fact, they're saying it's very difficult to strategize what your measure your success is. So this is maybe still a little bit better than traditional. Is there a balance between the two? The world has transitioned into a very digital environment. There's your key right there. That's absolutely a fact. The world has transitioned into a very digital environment. When you create your campaign, please keep that in mind. That's one of the most important things that will be said tonight, because that should give you some idea of where you think you want to go with this. Not only are magazines going digital, we perform many of our daily tasks, such as banking, online, and much of our reading is done on e-readers. Because of the rise of the digital age, it just seems like common sense to invest in a digital campaign. Absolutely. I mean, it is common sense. That's why I keep saying it to you. I'm not trying to push you in a direction. I want you to explore on your own, but I'm giving you what I think is the best thought I have on this. Even though traditional marketing still has a place, it is diminishing in our digitally based world. This is what I said earlier. You know, they're not gone, but they are slowly vanishing, one small bit at a time. I don't know how long it's going to take for them to be gone ultimately, and perhaps they never will be fully gone. And that doesn't matter one way or the other. What's most important to you, if you're creating an advertising campaign, is what money you have to spend and how you can spend it. What is the best way that you can spend it? How do you get results? You want to get more money out of your customer? Give him something that's going to give him results. Then you'll find them giving you more money, because they'll trust you. They'll say, he knows what they're doing, they know what they're doing, and you'll get more money because they're getting what they want, customers. So readers, what rises digital age. It seems common sense to invest in a digital campaign. Even though traditional marketing still has a place, it is diminishing in our digitally based world. For today's business, it is imperative to have a website and use the web as a means to interact with their consumer base. There is some successful traditional marketing strategies, particularly if you're reaching a largely local audience. It is important to take advantage of digital marketing so as to keep up with today's world. Now, the question is, when you choose your target client for your marketing campaign, do you think that you will be going for a local or a wider audience? That's what I think is important for you to think about as well. Where is your audience coming from? Is it like worldwide? Is it the United States? Is it a state? That's what you need to think about, okay? Now, let's see here. I've got, what are the different types of advertising media? Let's see what this says. This looks very similar to one. Let me go back to my first one here. Hold on. I just don't want to duplicate our time here. We got so little of it. Let me go back up to the first one. Advertising. I wonder if that's the same one. Advertising, types of advertising media. I think we covered this. All right, I think we covered this. So anyway, I'm going to end that and just remind you that we have this. This is for you. What are e-publications? Okay, here we go. Before we go any further with this, I just want to quickly show you something. I have 2 e-publications here that I'm going to go over with you tomorrow night. Right here, this e-publication actually is my final thesis paper, my final thesis for my master's degree. It is made up of, let me see how many pages. I think it's 70-some pages. It's 72 pages long. Okay, so I mean, this is like quite a long document. And if I go to page 2, okay, I don't have the one in this, do I? Nope, I'll be darned. Okay, I have, where's my, hold on a minute here. Gotta be here somewhere. Oh, here we go. There it is, index. All right, so this is my cover. This is my first page, which is essentially an index. So what I've done literally is I've went through my entire document, and each particular topic I've indicated where you can find this topic, which is prosthodontist, a New Providence, New Jersey, rocking the social, which I'm going to show you probably tomorrow night. Udentialism and prosthodontist, how I met John Carino, the design process, enter Rotomedical. Each one of them has its associated page. So what I have done is, after I created all these pages and after I created my index, I saved this file as an interactive PDF. I went into Acrobat and I created links to each one of these index page identifiers, and I've linked them all to the page. So if somebody comes in here and decides that they want to see enter Rotomedical, all I have to do is come here and click Rotomedical and it goes to page 17 automatically. So what I'm going to do tomorrow night is I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, the other thing I want to show you is this. This is another e-publication that I did. This is for a flooring company, Firma. And this is, how many pages are on this? This one is another one that's got like, oh, this has got 33 pages on it. So this isn't quite as bad. This is a 33-page document, okay? But if you go to page 2, this also has an index of pages. So what I would be doing is literally, I would be creating links to all of these pages. The signature impressions, there would be a link to that page. There'd be a link to products and compliance, and you click on that and you go right to that page. If you wanted to come in here and look at cabinet construction, you click on this and you go right to cabinet construction. Down here in the lower corner, I've put the word index. And what that is ultimately, that's a link that will take you back to the index page. This appears on every single page, okay? So if I go through here, you'll see index on every page. The index, and if I go down, index, index on every page. And what I would do is I would link every one of those pages back to the index page. The reason I'm doing that is because somebody might come in here and read, let's see, 18 through 16, textured matte finish gallery. And at 16, they may want to come back into index because they'll want to jump from that to maybe acrylic high gloss finish gallery. And that's the easiest way to figure out where that is, by simply coming back to the index after you read page 16, come back to the index, and then scroll down. There we go, acrylic high gloss finish gallery. Click that, and that takes you to page 19, and you go from 19 to 24. Then you can click the index, come back to index. So these are 2 pieces that I've actually produced that are e-publications. And I mean, I'll walk you through them. You can see what they look like. So here you have basically the family of signature impressions. All right. Now this is actually cabinetry, which is another one of their products. And this is their compliance certification. This gives you an idea of their certification, their compliance certification. All these things are necessary for this company. This is basically a cabinet construction chart giving you an idea of what the components are for a cabinet construction. That's what this page does. And it goes on and on. Now we're getting into a little more specifics about the cabinet construction. That shows you some pictures of some of the things that you get for the cabinet construction. So it's just that kind of a thing. Now we're talking about the acrylic high gloss finish collection, textured matte, so you get a chance of understanding the profile of the product line. Then we get into the actual details where we're now seeing some of the matte finishes. These are some of the actual finishes, okay? And it goes on doing this. And here now we're looking at a page that shows you, oh, I got something missing in the middle. That's no big deal. There's some of the actual photos that you're going to be seeing from the galleries and it names them. So Seaside, Daytona, Del Mar, Manhattan, Riviera, Hollywood, Ventura, and Pompano. And then, of course, we get into here, and now we're going to start seeing the actual pages, okay? So this is Seaside, okay? There's your Seaside, and those are the Seaside cabinets. That's what the cabinets look like. That's what we're talking about in this particular one. And the next one is, this is Daytona. Those are the Daytona cabinets. All that cabinetry is Daytona. So what this is basically, it's just a sample book that would be given to the dealer. And the dealer would, again, let's go back up to the index. The dealer can jump around because these have all been indexed. Now you can't do this indexing in Adobe InDesign. The way that you do this is you save this as an Adobe PDF and you bring it into Acrobat, and you do this actually in Acrobat. And as I said, I'm not going to bother doing this tonight because I want to talk more about, I want to go back in and talk more about ePublications. But I'm going to do this tomorrow night so you can see me do this to not only this one, but to this one. I may not do every single one, but I'll do enough that you get an idea of how this is done. I don't know whether you know how to do this or not. I'm going to assume that you don't, but it is a tremendous way to give the person that is getting this e-publication that you might be creating some interactivity, which is one of the things that we talked about in that last article that we were reading, okay? So that's what we're going to be looking at tomorrow night, and I think you'll enjoy it. For now, though, let's take a look. Let's see. So I don't know what this is. Let's see what that is first. Which I don't know which I'm going to go. Oh, no, okay, that's just an explanation, so we don't need that. Let me close all this because it's getting out of hand. Let me go in and now let me try this one. Electronic publications. Let's see if this is any different. There we go. Electronic publications are those publications which are formatted and produced in an electronic environment. Okay, so what's a PDF? That's exactly what we're talking about here. We're talking about a PDF. Now, can you create a PDF and can you display that PDF in a web browser? Not exactly. You have to have some special application associated with the browser in order to do that, like an Acrobat reader, okay, or some sort of a reader like that. Okay, so an article on WiseGeek, which is what this is, right? For example, would be considered an electronic publication. So that this article is essentially an e-publication. Now, I believe that what you're going to end up doing is going to be more than just an article. Like, look, if we scroll down here, here's the article. See what I'm saying? The article it only runs to one page. It's not like a full page. It only runs like one page. It's not even a full page. And this is all jammed up with ads and stuff, you know? Some of these are ads, some of these are not. Most of these are links to other things. But what I'm saying to you is that, you know, you can create an article like this and say that you're going to put it on some sort of, you know, a blog site. You could maybe do that. But you should make it a full page and you should incorporate imagery as well. So let me read on. Some publications are available both in print form and through an electronic medium. Often, the rules for citing electronic publication will be slightly different than for print publication. The most common forms of electronic publications are those which are found on the internet, often in hypertext markup language. So that means HTML. It means that if you're going to create one of these, you might create it in Adobe InDesign, or I'm sorry, not InDesign. You might create it in Adobe Dreamweaver, or you might create it in Adobe Muse. Now, I don't know whether you want to do this or not. I mean, you're the one that's going to be creating these things, not me. I am only giving you as many options as I can because I'd like you to be clear on what you're going to do. And I'll remind you at this point that I am available Wednesday from 7 o'clock until 11 Mountain Time, and actually Friday from, 11 to 12, 12 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. I think from 11 to 4 on Friday, and then on Saturday from 7 to 12, now all Mountain Time. So, I mean, you can come and see me any of those times if you have any questions or anything that you want to go over with me, or if you need some help with a particular thing. Feel free to do that, all right? So let's see here. Some publications may also be in the form of PDF files. So what you're really going to be doing, because you've got to remember something, you have to send this to me. And I believe if you take a look at the specifications on this, I don't know whether I copied them or not, but let me take a look anyway. Let's see here. Submission. Here we go. Submit a multi-page PDF that includes the advertisements that end your write-up. So what you're going to do ultimately is you're going to produce your advertising pieces and whatever write-up that you have, and you're going to put your plan together and submit it as a multi-page PDF. And what I'm showing you is how to create an index and use the index to link to certain things. Now, whether you use that or not is totally up to you. I just think that if you can understand what I do tomorrow night when I do it, and it doesn't seem too difficult, it might be something that you might want to consider, because it's very professional looking to do that. And what you're trying to do is trying to make this look as professional as possible. You want to give the impression that you know what you're doing when you're creating things like PDFs, like when you're working in Acrobat, like when you're working in InDesign. You know what to do in InDesign. You know how to lay things out in InDesign and make it beautiful. Once you get into PDF, Acrobat, you know what to do with it to make it do something more than just go from page to page, okay? You can even do external links in Acrobat. So anyway, all right, so yeah. So some publications may also be in the form of PDF files, word processing files, or other type of files that are uploaded to the internet or distributed privately. So you concentrate on just PDF files. That's what you're looking for here. And as I say, I've shown you two. I got them up here, and I'm going to be going over them tomorrow in great detail. And all they are, don't get confused at what you see here. Let me go back. All this is an 8.5 by 11 page, and I've made 72 pages, okay, because I've done all these different articles. These are all articles that I did for my research. Every one of these things are research, okay? And I've compiled them into one particular thesis paper, and I've created this index, and to make it so that it looks more than just a plain index that you can read, to make it a useful element, I'm going to create links. I've actually already done it, but I'm going to do it over again for you tomorrow night so that you can see how I do it. And I've also included returns on every single page. So on every single page, this button will actually, you'll be able to click on it and go back to the index. So these are things that I'll show you how to do. And it's the same with this. Now, I haven't done this one yet, but this one here is going to have links to all of these pages. This is going to be created, a PDF will be created out of this, and then I will also return to the index on every page. So now you have some basic interactivity. And you know, I could go further with this by creating links to the internet and all that, but you know, I don't want to make this impossible for you to understand. I want to make this something that you can find of that value. So I want to limit what I do. That's why I'll show you these things tomorrow night, and hopefully you'll find them very helpful and you'll be able to use them when you create yours, okay? Yeah, so moreover, because they're easily forwarded from, I would say, the advantage of these publications is they are available nearly any time to those who request access. See, this is what I like about the internet advertisements and different things such as this. You could have this available at any time. So somebody could literally, you could put together an entire book on an advertisement, and you could literally make it in a website or in an e-publication and have it stored somewhere in a site. And when somebody clicks a link on your ad, that PDF can be delivered to them. That actually can happen. Now, you're not going to be able to do that, but you could indicate that that's what you have in mind to do. Now, again, you could also create a website. That's something that you might want to do. That's also kind of a form of an e-publication. And you could make it somewhat like an e-publication instead of a conventional website. Maybe you want your website to look more like a magazine site. I'm trying to give you some creative thinking. I want you to have fun with this. This is something that when you have the chance to be creative, which you do, you have complete control over your creativity, have some fun with it. See if you can have some fun with it. I know life is hard and you got things to do. We talked about that, but try when you have the opportunity to get into this, have some fun with what you're doing, and it will probably show in your work. Yeah, so they're available nearly any time to those who request access. There are no printing or mailing costs. Hello. And the reason that they even mention this is because the printing and mailing costs can be substantial. They can be big money. And I think you will find out that by creating e-publications and advertisings that go online, you can get just as much bang for your buck out of them without spending the high cost of printing and mailing. Give them serious thought. Moreover, because they are easily forwarded from one reader to another, electronic publications will often reach a larger and more relevant audience because of sharing. Some people will share. The disadvantages are they can be copied relatively easy, and that some readers strongly prefer to read material on paper. I mean, yeah, so they could be copied, but I mean, copied for what purpose? It's your advertising. I don't quite understand why you would worry about that unless you're doing some sort of a thesis paper like I am, or some sort of a I don't know, some scientific article, But I think an advertisement, that's not such a concern. And as far as readers strongly preferring to read material on paper, yeah, it's possible, but I doubt very much that we're talking about a significant piece of the public. In the case of the internet, there are online databases that offer access to millions of electronic publications. So here now, you can actually set your publication to go on one of these electronic or these databases, including entire magazines or individual articles. These databases may be offered to the generic public for a fee, or may be available through a university or an agreement with a local public library. These are often a convenient place to look for electronic publications. I'm not sure that would work with your advertisement, but it's an interesting thought. Electronic publications can also be put on a physical medium, such as a disc or a CD. These can be sold to individuals or freely distributed with information on them. Perfect place to have an electronic publication on a DVD that could be sent with people who contact you. Would you like to have a DVD? You send the DVD. Or if you go to a trade show, have DVDs with the information on it, and they can download it from that DVD. So that's another good possibility. The advantage of this type of medium is that distribution of the information can be more closely regulated. Through distribution is not as quick, although distribution is not as quick. I suppose that's true. Newspaper and magazines often have both electronic form and a print form of their publications. Today, that's true. See, that's a very important thing. So what I say to you is no matter what you decide to do, you definitely should be thinking about perhaps maybe putting together some sort of electronic piece for the business that you're using. This offers some additional revenue generating possibilities, as these companies, they will offer both advertising online and on print. Also, these publications have a more immediate way of getting the word out when breaking news happens. This is a limitation that the traditional print medium cannot overcome easy. Yeah, that's the thing. See, once you create an ad, let's say you create an ad and you spend $20,000 on spending for an ad, and let's say all of a sudden some kind of crazy thing happens halfway through your your ad campaign. The only thing that you could do is pull that ad campaign. I mean, you can't change it. I mean, you got to change it, but you have to pull the ad campaign. Whereas if you're online, all you have to do is go in and update your information that you have online. It's almost instantaneous. It's a lot less costly and a lot less time consuming to fix something online, potentially, than it would be if you're doing something in print. In some cases, when you print things, there's no fixing it. You literally have to either cover it over with something or throw it away and redo it, which is, you don't want to talk about that. Slightly more information is required when it comes to citing electronic publications. Whenever electronic publication is cited, the medium it has retrieved from will need to be noted. In the case of the internet, the URL will likely need to be put at the end of the citation. No big deal, so you add a URL, no problem. Some styles, such as APA and MLA, allow the URL to be left out of the publication is retrieved from an Academy database, but the database must be named, okay? The date of information is retrieved must also be listed since articles on the internet are often updated periodically. Okay, so keep those things in mind. Again, I'm just going to say one more thing because we're over here. The only thing I want to tell you is that, I've given you all these links. These links are all on this publication for you, and you should have no trouble finding them. I'll see you tomorrow night. I'm going to stop the recording now, and I will see you tomorrow night. Have a good night.